Thank you for being here this evening. Apologies for starting late. We've had a very long day. It just continues to go on. So again, thank you for being here this evening. We have a lot to get to. So welcome to the City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, October 27th. This is at 7 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. I would like to invite the Maricopa Police Department Chaplain, Paul Ellis, to please come forward, give us our invocation, after which we will have the Pledge of Allegiance given to us by Councilmember Henry Wade, and we'll follow him in that. So please rise.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, and friends, would you bow with me in prayer? Our Heavenly Father, we want to start off by thanking you for this great city that we have the privilege of living in. We thank you for your blessing upon our citizens. I thank you for the leadership of our mayor and our city council and all who serve the city, for our first responders who protect us daily. As we embark upon the elections that are before us, we pray for your guidance and your direction on those that make the decision who vote, but not only on those, but also those who will carry out their duties and serve this city, our state, and our nation. Bless them, I pray. We pray for those in authority over us and who keep watch over us. Be with those who faithfully serve in our armed forces and who protect our borders, and those who serve to protect our city, our first responders. Bless them and keep them safe. Be with this meeting tonight. Give wisdom and direction, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You may be seated. That'll take us to the roll call, please.
Councilmember Brown? Councilwoman Gussie?
Here.
Councilmember Manfredi?
Here.
Councilmember Vitiello?
Here.
Councilmember Wade?
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith? Mayor Price?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. That'll take us to a proclamation we have for Italian American Heritage Month. Thank you very much. Is Sam in the audience? Sam, would you come on up for us? I also understand, I think you may have provided us some pastries or something tonight. Oh, thank you. I like samples. Those are good. Costco's not giving them out anymore, so I'm going to come to you. Well, thank you. So tonight I wanted to read this proclamation. It says, whereas in the 5 centuries since Christopher Columbus, the son of Genoa, Italy, first set sail across the Atlantic Ocean, countless individuals have followed the course he charted to seek a new life in America. Since that time, generations of Italian Americans have helped shape our society and steer the course of our history. Whereas during Italian American Heritage and Culture Month, we recognize the rich heritage of Americans of Italian descent and celebrate their immeasurable contributions to our nation. Whereas bound by the enduring values of faith and family, Italian Americans have flourished in all areas of our public and economic life while preserving their proud Italian traditions. And whereas upon the arrival in the United States, the Italian American community faced racial, social, and religious discrimination, yet Italian Americans have preserved with hope and hard work to reach out for the American dream and help build our great country. As proud service members, they have also defended the liberty and integrity of the United States since the Revolutionary War. And whereas the legacy of these intrepid immigrants is found in the millions of American men, women, and children of Italian descent who strengthen and enrich our country, Italian Americans operate thriving businesses, teach our children, serve at all levels of government, and succeed in a myriad of occupations, drawing on the courage and principles of their forebears. They led in every facet of American life, dedicating their knowledge and skills to growing and the growth of our country. And whereas, as we honor the long history and vast contributions of Italian Americans, let us recommit to extending the promise of America that they embraced to future generations. Now, therefore, I, Christian Price, Mayor of the City of Maricopa, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 as Italian American Heritage and Culture Month in the City of Maricopa, and I call upon all Maricopans to learn more about the history of our Italian American friends and to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities. So, Sam, I want to present this to you. I believe Councilmember Vitiello also has some Italian American history in his family tree, as does Councilman Manfredi, so you guys get to come down. And anyone else who wants to join the club. So would you all come on down? Come on. It'll be more fun that way. Come on over. Congratulations. All right, thank you very much. That'll take us to the report from the mayor at this time. Had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, and we continue to have even more as we head towards the holidays, so bear with us, but we have gone to a groundbreaking that we recently had for the Estrella Gen property. We have one this week for the Sonoran Creek area, which is where the anchor store will be Sprouts, and then in a couple of weeks, I think 2 or 3, 2.5, we have one for the new hospital. So a lot going on here in the city of Maricopa, and even more on the horizon. So hang on, buckle your seatbelts, a lot still to come. Had a wonderful opportunity last week on Wednesday. I'd like to thank the council members and so many of the city staff and everyone who made it possible. We had a wonderful State of the City event. Again, got to express in detail just really the tip of the iceberg of all the many things that are going on here in the city. And again, like I just said, hang on, because things are only getting started here in Maricopa. We have so much going on. It's really exciting. And I think you're going to look back in 3 years and go, this is a whole different city from what you thought you knew. So things are continuing to grow, and it's a really exciting time to be here. So with that, I will turn over the time over to the council members. If anyone else who would like to share with us what's going on. So Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On October the 13th, our Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority Board met. The main issue, one of the main issues, is the continued lack of water for the farming community in Pinal County. And to that end, we have retained a hydro firm to take a look at what the ADR says the lack is and what really exists. Because if there really is a lack, then of course the availability of CAP water will be substantially reduced to the farming community of Pinal County. And many of the farmers would have to either stop farming or relocate. So to that end, we're trying to determine that. Many of them feel that if they either dig deeper or relocate the location, they'll be successful. We suspect preliminarily there might be another 20 million acre feet of water that has not been accounted for, or more. So stay tuned and see what happens with that, but we hope that finding will be correct, because otherwise the farmers, many of them, will be forced to go out of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else at this time wish to share anything? Okey doke. All right, thank you, council members. We appreciate it. That'll take us to item 5 on the agenda, which is the report from the city manager. Nothing at this time. Thank you, City Manager Horst. That'll take us to item 6, which is the call to the public. So again, if I don't have any speaker cards before me, if there's something on your mind you wanted to come up and tell the council, we're welcome to do so. We'll give you 3 minutes, and then we'll move on to the rest of the agenda when that is complete. So the time is yours. Okay, seeing no one coming to the call to the public, go ahead and close that and move on to the minutes. Item 7 at this time, which is item 7.1, approval of the minutes from the October 6th, 2020 City Council regular meeting. Council, can I have a motion to approve, please? I have a motion by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second? Second by Vice Mayor Smith. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. That takes us to item 8, which is the consent agenda, items 8.1 through 8.5. Council, is there any questions on the consent before moving forward? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve consent? Is Is that Councilmember Vitiello? Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't see or hear, so apologies. Councilmember Wade? So there's the movement. Is there a second by Councilmember Vitiello? So motion and seconded on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries as well. All right, moving right along to the regular agenda. With council, with your permission, I just wanted to let you know that item 9.6 got moved to the end of the agenda, which, there's no problem with that, except for the fact that the folks here for that item are actually here on items 9.1 and 9.2. So with your permission, I'll move 9.6 to follow items 9.1 and 9.2. So if you're okay with that, we'll go ahead and move that to that location. With that, item 9.1 is a presentation. This is for the mayor and, I'm sorry, I think it's actually after 9.2. Is the resolution of 9.3 attaching to 9.2 as well? You know? Is that correct? All right, so again, I'm going to go ahead and restate what I just said. After 9.2 and 9.3 is when we'll add 9.6. Apologies. Okay, this is the Mayor and City Council's here presentation or an update on the 2020 census. This is for discussion only. Dale, take it away. You have been leading our census charge. Tell us what the good and the bad news is. Dale, will you hit that green button on the...
Is this a little bit better?
That's the one.
All right.
Excellent.
I think the last time I was here was March. It's also the last time I tied a tie, so this took me about 4 attempts. But I think I did okay on that part. So yes, I have been leading the census efforts here for the city of Maricopa, which has been a great honor for me. Thank you for your trust. I appreciate that. Thank you, city manager, for that as well. I'm going to run through a little bit of history, a little bit of what happened, some of the good points, some of the bad points, and kind of a look ahead. So census itself is enshrined in the Constitution. Every 10 years, we're supposed to enumerate all persons. It determines congressional representation and state legislative districts. It informs the distribution of federal and state funds. It makes us eligible for approximately $3,000 for federal funds, and in Arizona we have a pretty robust shared revenue formula, so that's about $400. April 1st is the point in time. They actually distributed census information prior to that, a couple weeks prior to that. And we concluded just a couple of weeks ago. We formed, and everybody was supposed to form, a complete count committee. This is a charge by the Census Bureau, so what we did was we contacted 40 or 50 community members to join our committee, and we tried to have as diverse a group as possible. I'm very happy to say that we did accomplish that. We probably had 20 to 25, and I do have a list of those people at the very end of this presentation. Without those people, we would not have been as successful as we were with outreach. They got T-shirts. I thought I should dress up a little today since I'm at the podium instead of wearing the T-shirts. But I do know that certain members of our community and our Complete Count Committee were very eager to wear their shirts at all times. And then we also participated in the new construction database, and I'm going to give you more information on that a little bit later, but we started sending the Census Bureau new construction updates in 2019, and it was both good and it was bad in terms of how our self-response rates looked. So we were trained by the Census Bureau. The mayor was at that very first meeting, gave us a pep talk, and I would say that we had a pretty active Complete Count Committee. We also participated in the MAG Regional Census Communication Group. This was any member of MAG, and they contracted with Reeser Advertising Agency, which created promotional materials, did media buys, TV, radio, billboards, etc. We don't have billboards in the city of Maricopa. I don't know if that's a conscious choice or not.
Yes, it is. It's against the law.
So any radio or television station out of the Phoenix metro area that reaches down in Maricopa, there were census ads on that as well. There we go. So these are just a few of the things that we did here in the city itself. With Councilwoman Gussie, there was the Hispanic Heritage Month event over at Ak-Chin. Mr. Manfredi invited me to speak to the Maricopa Republicans. Mr. Wade's wife, I believe, invited me to speak to the Maricopa Democrats. And then there was Chamber of Commerce gathering, the province. I also gave a presentation to META. I forgot to put that on my slide here. But we had good collaborative efforts with MUSD, the county, and the Census Bureau itself. Advertising. I spent approximately $3,500 on advertising, both print and social media. We also did a door hanger campaign to low response rate areas. The mayor, Councilwoman Gussie, and Vice Mayor Smith all participated in that. Also, we had some Copper Sky folks that were at that time not working because of the pandemic, and so we got them some hours, which was nice. And I'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about response rate issues in a little bit later. We also used some of the electronic message boards around the city in 3 different locations. We moved one of them from farther west on Smith Enke. We moved it closer to one of our low response tracks areas at the end. And of course, we use Facebook and Twitter in our weekly newsletter. One of the people on our Complete Count Committee, Terry Ponticello, is the grants manager for MUSD, and she trying to think of her name now, Michelle Terry is the PIO, I believe. They got me into contact with the graphic arts instructor, Maria Poor. So we had their students, as a student project, create posters for the census, and they went up on bus stops. The kids were very, very excited about this. It was fun for them to do. And that also then gave us more ambassadors within the high school to talk it up. And when the students talk it up and they come home and say, Mom, Dad, have you done the census yet? Then we can start doing this as a family affair. And I think that was a good effort. And then, of course, we had mayor and council videos. Mayor did one, Councilwoman Gussie did one with her grandchild, who was the star of that. And I don't remember even this little guy in Spanish, but that was a big hit when the mayor tickled the grandchild's chin. And then Councilman Wade and his wife also did one. And I did not embed those in the presentation simply because I saw how long the agenda was. But we used those in social media with the other contacts we had within Maricopa and Maricopa Monitor as well. Luis, our public information officer, is a gem. He said, can I have some permission to create some memes? And I said, absolutely. So this is one example of what Luis did. And then he also came up with this. Whoops. Uh-oh. Come on. There we go. I'll talk about in a couple of minutes some of the different tracks within the city. We thought about having a competition between HOAs, but the tracks don't line up on HOA lines. They overlap, so that wasn't going to work. So Luis came up with this idea, and so weekly I could go on the Census Bureau website and I could find some communities that were nearby or close to us in percentage. And so we updated this every week. So this is actually the percentages that were available when I loaded this video 2 weeks ago, whatever Vanessa's deadlines are. Actually, Vanessa loaded it for me, thank you. The other issue with this is, let's see if I can, okay, now we'll get into the obstacles. COVID. Everybody can say COVID this year, you know. I believe in your State of the City, you said the Dickens line, the best of times, the worst of times. So I think what I'll do is quote the Grateful Dead, what a long, strange trip it's been. We had plans for live events, particularly some of the places that historically had not done well in the census count, like the Heritage District. Those had to get canceled. We couldn't do those anymore, so we had to up our other game. Then when they actually came time to count people door to door, there was a big problem because they had shoved the deadlines out. We were supposed to be done with the census by the end of June. There were supposed to be field workers out in beginning of May. But because of COVID, they had to push everything back. And so they had, and the state's divided into different regions for field workers. We happen to be in the Tucson region. This is my next point, the Phoenix versus Tucson. I did all this work with the MAG census group, but yet when it came time for field workers, they came out of the Tucson office. And I have no explanation for that. But they had 500 people hired as field workers at the start of the active census period back in the spring. When it came time to send them into the field, they were down to 134 people. Kids went back to college. They lost all those workers. They imported workers from other states to come and help us go door to door. So Phoenix versus Tucson, that's my issue. I had all this communication with Phoenix, and then I get field workers out of Tucson, so that was a bit of a problem. And then the citizenship question, which was early on, and it was settled by the Supreme Court, but I think it did get some people cautious about filling out the census. They were afraid to fill out the census. And then we had court cases on extensions. So we're going to go to October 31st. And then the Census Bureau, which is under the Department of Commerce, announced that they were going to stop, I believe it was October 5th. And a federal judge in California ruled, no, you can't do that. There was another case in Maryland as well about stopping early. And that went back and forth, and there was supposed to be a court hearing on this day, and then there wasn't, and then it just, so eventually we ended up stopping on the 15th. And I think that confused people too. Can I still fill it out? Can I not fill it out? And then the last point, which is the hugest point for Maricopa, the actual address lot issue. So this is a comparison of 2010 and 2020 and our self-response rates, not the door-to-door complete count, the self-response rates. You can see, let's skip the eastern track for just a second. Look at the improvement we had with Desert Passage, Glen Wild, Heritage, everybody, except for basically two places, well, three. Southeast, which is a big tract, kind of stayed the same. But we had two places, the very top one and then the second to the bottom one, which had quite a bit of difference. Pounded my head against the wall, couldn't figure it out. We did door hanger campaigns. And what I was told by the mayor and other people that worked those tracts that were low response rate was people were saying, oh, no, I already filled mine out. Kept getting that over and over again. I couldn't figure this out. It drove me nuts. One day, you know how you wake up and go, oh! So I went down and talked to GIS Jim and Ryan down in Development Services and said, how many addressed lots are not occupied homes? And we'll see this in the next slide, the actual data. But it answered our question, okay? Ballpark here in Mirage, Rancho Mirage, we have about 550, 560 occupied homes. And we have something in the neighborhood of 1,500 addressed lots that are in the Census Bureau database that they think is a house. That's why it's 31%. Okay? Drove me nuts. So what I did with GIS Jim, I call him GIS Jim, it's like G.I. Joe to me, but he's been so helpful, and I'll shout some other people out in a minute too. But what I did was I had him draw me a map of the census tracts just within the city limit. If you go to the Census Bureau website and look up self-response, Maricopa goes down past Interstate 8. That's not our city, okay? So we got this artificial punishment. We had address lots without occupied homes, and our area is gigantic. So GIS Jim drew me a map with just the census tracts within the city limits, and I have a 65, and that actually ticked up just a little bit since we created this PowerPoint. We're at 65.2, okay? Within this, with the Census Bureau website, we're at 61.3. Now, when I showed you that slide a little bit ago that showed different cities, I don't know what their boundaries are and what their, so I can only compare apples to apples. So I purely went with the census statistics. So I don't know if Glendale has a bunch of unoccupied address lots. I don't know, and I can't know unless you wanted me to take 2 weeks to go and work in Glendale. I don't think so. I have friends there. But, so, we're a little over 65%, and our state rate was 64.1%. So, we did better than the state rate. The state doesn't do very well overall, however. We're right around 31st in the nation with turnout. My home state of Minnesota, I'm going to brag a little bit here, is the only state over 75%. But people don't move. We have a transient population. We have new people in here all the time in Arizona. You have a place like Minnesota, which doesn't change population. It's a different dynamic. And so that's why I think where we're at compared to other states like that. So if you have older, settled states with not a lot of new construction, their self-response rates looked really good. And then fast-growing states, a lot of new construction, didn't look so good. Generally speaking, this is a gross generalization, in Arizona, the more affluent communities did better on self-response. I think that's because people have more access to internet sources. Everybody in the house has a computer, they have Wi-Fi, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the raw numbers. This is, again, the work of Jim Johansson. You can see the highest possible response rates on the right side there. So the certificates of occupancy, address but undeveloped. And so this demonstrates, and I remember showing this data to you earlier to try to explain some of the low response rates. So you can see we just couldn't hit certain marks in certain developments because people don't live there. Or not as many people live there as the Census Bureau thinks there are houses there. So that was, once we discovered this, it was like, okay, we get it now. We still concentrated our efforts in those places that had low rates, but we couldn't have overcome no people.
Question. Addressed but not undeveloped and certificate of occupancy. So what we're looking at before the response rate was self-response.
Correct.
And we went out and did some talking. That's not self-response, right? When the enumerators knock.
Enumerators is not self-response.
Right, so that adds later.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Then the Census Bureau takes into account who doesn't respond and they average?
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman Manfredi, so the self-response period ended October 15th, and the enumeration ended basically the same night. They account for time zones, so it actually went to like 3 in the morning to account for Hawaii. So what they do is a combination of things. They did the field workers, the enumerators, and if they could not get somebody to answer the door, they went to neighbors and did proxy.
Right.
I did a proxy in my neighborhood, my home neighborhood, okay? Who lived there on April 1st, how many people in the house, about how old were they, stuff like that. And then if those methods have been exhausted, they actually can tap into other federal records. I don't have the absolute details on this, but I'm just going to say the IRS. Do you have do you have some people living at this address? Things like that. So they have what they use, the term they used was administrative records to account for more. So we're actually, as a country, 99.98% counted.
Okay.
As a state, we were low in that total enumeration for a while, and it primarily was because of the Navajo Nation. getting enumerators to cover that territory is very, very difficult. You have houses 50, 60 miles apart, people without phones, certainly without access to the internet. So for a period of time when our Tucson region, our enumeration rate was somewhere in the upper 80s, the field work, and the Navajo Nation was 31%.
Right, so the addressed but undeveloped, right? They're saying they exist, we say they don't, right? Because we went through and looked.
Yeah, so they're going to account for that
Right,
in the overall count. So the self-response rate is, I think, a way to, because this was the first internet census. I think it was an effort to get people to gin up, do this, so you had to do, so that the Census Bureau would do less field work. It was an efficiency measure. And I think overall it was.
10%.
Pardon me?
It went up, what, 7% over 2010?
Yeah.
So it went up a little. So how are they going to account for the addressed but undeveloped? Are they going to count those? Or are they not going to count them?
They don't count the address but undevelops. Because they can enter any record they want administratively, IRS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to pull up that anybody lives there.
Right.
So it's the self-response thing that kind of goofs us up on that.
Councilmember Brown, you had a question?
Jill, is there any reason why Sonita's not reflected?
I don't know.
There's
I
phase
didn't create
1,
this
2,
particular chart, so I don't know.
It must be blended in with something else, because Homestead South's not
Yeah,
reflected
yeah.
either. So it must be blended in with other areas, Marvin.
It's not to be
And
prejudiced.
over the next couple of years, as those addressed but undeveloped houses develop, we're going to have to do one in 5 years to account for those 5,000 houses?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilman Friday. So we use census estimates, and those are derived off of a variety of administrative records as well. And we get those estimates, the Census Bureau and the Department of Economic Security. So we get those I think it's in the late spring.
Yeah, every year.
They're based on 2-year-old data. So after this census will be accurate for a few years, and then will we want to, like you all did in 2015, do another special? That'll be a decision for the people that sit up there in 2015.
Now, Dale, do we have to do that? Because I was under the understanding that, the league and basically the cities and towns kind of agreed with the state that, collectively, we would just all take the census estimates as sort of law, and therefore we don't have to do those anymore. Now, again, if we're super high growth, you can, if you feel like they're just wrong, but again, you're paying out of pocket for it 100%, whereas before, the agencies like MAG or PAG or others, CAG, they were helping to pay for that, but now they're not going to pay for that. It would be all on us. But again, if we're all accepting the census data as an estimate, whether it's up or down, then in essence, there's not a whole lot of reason for it, because they're taking the information from utility hookups. So, I mean, if the utility hookups are happening, then the assumption is 2.5 people live there or something to that effect.
That's state shared, right? Or is that
That's,
federal too?
well, no, that's at the state level.
Yeah, that's state.
Yeah.
You are correct,
Council,
Mr. Mayor.
one of the primary denominators for these estimates in the years in between the census is based on certificate of occupancies that we issue each year. And that, as right now, our number, I think, is an average of 2.7 members per household. So they do the multiplication, and that's how they come up with the estimates. It is in arrears, but that should be sufficient unless we had something
Right.
like happened last time. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that is true. So what you all just said. So lastly, We had our last MAG census meeting just a little bit ago. The Census Bureau does believe they will get the report to the president by the end of this calendar year, which is when it's due. And then we should see it on a state level no later than April 1. So then we can start calculating things for our redistricting on a state level. And then also because of the state shared revenue formula, we have 4 pots of shared revenue. They're all tied into, 3 are tied in directly to population, and 1 of them has a little extra part of its formula, the HERF funds. So our last census estimate was 54,791, and that's based on 2-year-old data. So if somebody really wants to do some math, we could. I'm betting on 60. Yeah, and remember, the self-response rate was a figure to use for us to get our efforts out. The accuracy of the absolute count is what's important here for us to get our fair share of revenues and to be adequately counted within congressional and legislative districts. The expectation is the state will get an additional congressional seat because we'll be over 7 million people.
The last 2 years, not counting this year, we issued right about 2,200 permits at 2.6 per household. That's 5720. So we should be right at 60 or a tad over, be my guess.
Yeah, I think it's 2.67. I just remembered that. I don't know what 0.67 of a person is, but you'll figure it out. So, and that completes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions, council, on that? Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Dale. Appreciate it. Very helpful. Item 9.2, the mayor and city council shall hear public comment regarding a major general plan amendment requested by CVL Consultants on behalf of Maricopa 64 Partners LLC to amend the general plan future land use map for approximately 63.06 from existing employment E to medium density residential M and 3.04 acres of public institutional to mixed use generally located at the northeast corners of Loma Road and McDavid Road. Rudy, take it away.
Mayor, council members, before we go into the public hearing, I'd like to do a quick presentation, and then we'll open up the public hearing for comments and then close it. This request by CVO Consultants on behalf of Maricopa 64 Partners, as mentioned, is for the proposed general plan land use change for 66 approximate acres from existing employment designation and public institution to medium density and mixed use. The site is 66 acres, referenced by 2 separate parcel numbers. The existing zoning is CI2 industrial zone. I want you guys to keep in mind on this one because there is a separate rezoning request that is also on tonight's agenda, which is the agenda after the resolution for this, that proposes a rezone from the zoning district of CI2 to a PAD zoning. Again, this is later on tonight's agenda, as this request is for the amendment of the city's the city's general plan land use map only. The subject site shown in the yellow star borders the railroad line to the north, Loma Road alignment to the west, McDavid Road on the south, and the CenturyLink yard facility to the east. This is the general plan map of the existing land use with the subject site. Again, the current designation is employment with public institution, surrounded by mixed use on the west, mixed use on the southern, which is now somewhat changed to the medium density of Maricopa Meadows and Altera and the high school component. Public institution on the east, which is the Maricopa High School, and commercial and employment on the north. Here's the proposed designation with the medium density and mixed use designation. And here's the conceptual land use layout that gives idea of land use development pattern, medium density for the orange, green for the open space, and red for the mixed use. This conceptual development plan is further analyzed in the PAD rezoning, which again is on the separate item on tonight's agenda. The Planning and Zoning Commission found the request to be acceptable to the goals and objectives of the city's general plan as it relates to land use, circulation, open space, and the city's future growth area. At the time that the report is written, staff has not received any formal comments regarding this request other than clarification about what the project is about. And further information on the applicable goals can be found within Exhibit A, page 11, on page 11 to 23 of your staff report. As required by city zoning code and state requirements, all required advertising notices that include newspaper legal notices, mailing notices, agency notices, signposting, and holding a neighborhood meeting were all completed, along with holding 2 separate P&Z Commission public hearings at different locations within the city limits as required by state statute, along with the required public hearing for tonight, and further information can be found within Exhibit B of your report as well. On September 28, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission found that the general plan amendment proposal is consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan. It increases desired land use for balanced inventory of land use within the city. An amendment will promote orderly growth in a manner that protects health, safety, and general public for welfare. With that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of Major General Plan Amendment, case number GPA 20-03, subject to the conditions of approval, stated in the staff report as amended by P&Z Commission. At this time, again, Mayor, council members, at this time, we'll ask you to open up the public hearing. The applicant is here to answer any questions if there is at the time after the public hearing has been closed. Mayor?
Great, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. If anyone would like to approach the podium and address the council on this item and this item only, you may do so. Thank you.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, members of the council, for your records, I'm Jordan Rose with Rose Law Group, and with me tonight is Chase Emerson, the owner of the property, and Ryan Weed, the head of CVL. We just wanted to thank the Planning Commission for their unanimous support, and then a special thanks to Rick and to Rudy, who worked so hard with us to really perfect the plan, and we're so excited. I can say, I think it's not an overstatement to indicate that things have really changed since 2004 when this was planned as industrial, so we're really excited to see what this can be, and thanks to your staff, your great management, for their help. And if you have any specific questions on this or the zoning, I'm here to take them. Thank you.
Jordan. Appreciate it. Anyone else at this time like to approach the council on this item? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And that'll take us to the next item then. This is the resolution of item 9.3. And I'm not going to read it all again. I don't believe I have to at this time. So at this time, this is for discussion and action. Council, do you have any questions or is there any additional concern? Anyone else wish to approach here? Yes, Councilwoman Gessie.
I just wanted to address the only concern that I had regarding the correspondence that was sent out. I did receive the correspondence from CVL because I do have a property within that area. And I had asked you the question regarding several years back, the Development Services Office used to publish this information in Spanish as well. Predominantly, a large amount of individuals that live within the Heritage District are Spanish-speaking individuals. Do we have a resolution going forward so that we could, I understand that the correspondence was sent out by CVL, but do we have any solution going forward to assure that we're publishing this information in both languages?
Rudy, I'll ask you to respond, but I believe Nathan indicated that we did send this information or it was available in Spanish. Can you confirm that?
City Manager, Mayor, council members, Councilmember Gussie. Just for clarification, I don't think we got that notice in time. I know we have enacted that advisement that the information can be found in a Spanish notice. With this project, it was a little bit early on. Unfortunately, we didn't get that time to put that additional language that this document is available for in Spanish if information was required. But moving forward, as City Manager Rick has mentioned, we are putting notices on Spanish. Every public notice that's sent out, that information can be given in Spanish for those type of questions.
And you're having the correspondence that goes out directly from the CVL in this case. Having them publish a line or something within there, you have access to this information in Spanish.
Right, and that's what we want to do moving forward. We've done that more recently. Unfortunately, we didn't get time to enact it on this project itself. But moving forward, we are enacting down on any type of public notice that goes out from the city.
All right.
And with applicants that work with the city as well.
So to be clear, we will ask the applicant with their public notices to provide it in both English and Spanish.
Yes.
And then our notifications will also be in English and Spanish. And frankly, should we have requests from any others, we'll be happy to entertain that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Manfredi.
That's a question I know the answer to, and I want to ask it because I've been asked this question by other people. I want it to be just on record there. Are there any houses on this property being demolished to build it?
Within the subject property, to our understanding, there is no actual dwelling units on the property.
Right,
There is some
clear
utility,
blank plan.
there's some utility infrastructures out there, which I believe is some type of global water facility, but there's no actual habitable facility or any type of housing dwelling unit on the
Right, so
property.
nobody's moving out of their houses, nobody's getting condemned, nobody's getting pushed out of there, right?
Correct, that's
Thank you.
correct.
Councilman Vitiello.
Yeah, Rudy, I just want to make sure that the traffic situation is probably my biggest concern. That is obviously probably one of the biggest things that need to be addressed, and I'm sure it has been. I have had conversations. Just want to make sure that the traffic situation isn't going to ball up tremendously once our schools are all back. Everybody's going to be back in work. So just want to bring that up and make sure that that's a big thing in my mind is traffic, that how we're going to handle it, traffic circles, traffic lights. So
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Vitiello, that actual discussion on the traffic is actually on the PAD zoning request, but just for the sake of the discussion, it is being addressed in that PAD zoning request that you'll see later on the agenda. Yes.
thank you.
Councilman Wade.
Thank you very much for the information that you have. I was curious about the notification process and the 300-foot barrier. I was under the impression that we were considering, that P&Z was considering increasing that. And if that is in fact the case, was that used during this process or will we continue on next time?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Wade, I had a hard time understanding the question, but I think what you were asking was in regards to the request from P&Z Commission about increasing the radius from 300 feet to 600 feet.
Yes, correct.
So we are looking to that as part of our process of updating our zoning code touch-ups. We do want to present back to the P&Z Commission and City Council, hopefully by the end of this year, if not early on next year, to see what we can do to increase our radius map from 300 feet from the subject property to 600 feet.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions, council, on this item at the moment for this particular rezone? Okay, seeing none, and I believe there's no other commentary. So with that, can I have a motion, please? Councilmember Brown and Vice Mayor Smith as a second. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Great. If I'm doing this correctly, we should be jumping to 9.6 at this point, which is an ordinance pertaining to this. I will read this ordinance. An ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Maricopa, Arizona, approving and adopting an amendment to the city's zoning map to rezone approximately 66.1 acres of land generally located on the northeast corner of Hoganess Boulevard and McDavid Road within the City of Maricopa Incorporated limits from general rural and industrial to planned area development as described in case PAD 20-01. The parcel of land is located in a portion of Section 21 of Township 4 South, Range 3 east of the Gila and Salt River Base and Meridian. Pinal County, Arizona. This is for discussion and action. Rudy, you have anything more for us there?
Just a little bit more, just a slight little bit more on that one. Mayor, council members, a quick presentation on this one before you go in for action. So we have before you is a request by CVO Consultants on behalf of Maricopa 64 Partners for a proposed zone change from existing general rural and industrial zoning to a planned area development district. To provide a better understanding of all of the commercial entitlement process, there are 4 steps for this project, which starts with the general plan land use, which was just approved, and then conformance to the rezone or conformance to the general plan, which then is followed by the platting procedures and preliminary plat itself. So later on down this road, we'll see the applicant come back for the platting of the subdivision itself. Again, the general facts, I won't reiterate the same. Subject site is, again, the dashed area bordered by the railroad to the north and Loma Road alignment to the west, McDavid to the south. The existing zoning and the proposed zoning surrounding area. So this is what the existing zoning map is, which is different from the general plan map itself of what's actually out there today. The site is being rezoned to a PAD zoning district, which a PAD is a development toolkit for the city and developers to work hand in hand to provide flexibility in the development code, where we can provide flexible standards with development itself, but also at the same token provide enhanced development design guidelines or design standards for the subdivision that would not be ordinarily done with a conventional subdivision plating process. Here's now the updated general plan map with the recently approved land use change. And here's the conceptual land use slate that gives idea of what the land use development pattern would eventually come about as a conceptual, still conceptual, as this is still more of a zoning layout, but we solidify some type of mechanism of circulation network of how that plan will work out. We want to recognize the applicant for developing a land use plan that provides well-connected community along with adequate buffering from the railroad. We also want to commend the applicant for developing a design guidelines that are typically we've seen this start out after the development process. It was kind of more pre-recession. Post-recession, we haven't seen developers come into play where they're developing actual design guidelines now in the forefront, and now when they solicit the builders, they actually have a design guidelines that we can work with that promotes a design of enhanced architectural diversity and housing design products, which staff commends the applicant for this establishing such guidelines within the actual PAD zoning document. Proposed wall design entry features take account to the spirit and design guidelines of the city's heritage district. And we also want to commend the applicant for the enhanced outdoor and open space areas, allowing for more flexible and creative single-family residential products, enhancing architectural requirements for single-family residential products, and also the enhancing the street design and with detached sidewalks that provide a different type of streetscape network that we typically see when a neighborhood that has attached sidewalks versus detached sidewalks. And lastly, incorporating decorative street lights than your typical Cobra head or freeway lights within a subdivision. This development will continue to enact more of a heritage style, decorative style street lights within the subdivision. The applicant has followed the requirements set forth in the city's zoning code for public participation, which include mailing notices, newspaper notices, sign postings, and the required neighborhood meeting. At the time of the report was written, staff has not received any formal comment regarding the request other than just clarification on what the project is. The Planning and Zoning Commission made the following findings in their recommendation to the City Council: that the amendment is consistent with the general plan, subdivision ordinance, and applicable master plans of the city. The site is physically suitable for the type and intensity of the lines being proposed, and the development carries out a more efficient use of land and is excellence in architectural site design. With that being said, Mayor, Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of PAD case number PAD 20-01, subject to conditions of approval stated in the staff report and is amended by the P&Z Commission. Applicant is here to answer any questions. Mayor, council members.
Thank you. Council, any questions at this time? Yes, Councilmember Wade.
I'm not trying to belabor the point, but I thought I missed it on the 300 versus 600 feet. Was it 600 on this set of slides?
I saw the same thing.
I'm going back the other way.
Right there, second notch down.
I believe during the second notice, what we've done with this one, because of the multiple hearings and our second attempt, or our second time we noticed the meeting, we actually did advance it to 600 feet. So I think that's where the comment came out, Councilmember Wade, that at the time, our first initial public hearing on the general plan, we did get the feedback from the commissioners to increase the 300 feet radius to 600 feet, which we then had the applicant go ahead and notice that to additional 300 feet that did advance at 600 feet.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns at this time on this issue? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Motion and a second. Okay, with that, nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here and for sticking it out with us. We appreciate it. That'll take us back on the agenda, item 9.4 and 9.5. So 9.4 is also a public hearing. The mayor and city council will hear public comment regarding a major general plan amendment requested by RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture on behalf of DA Holdings LLC to amend the general plan future land use map for approximately 493 plus acres from existing low-density residential, medium-density residential, and mixed use to a master plan community generally located at the northwest corner of State Route 238 and Green Road. Rudy.
Okay, Mayor, council members, last one for tonight from planning. The subject site shown in the dash area borders Gila River to the north, Southern Dunes Golf Course to the west, State Route 238 to the south, vacant land to the east, which is also recognized as state land. And by the way, I apologize. We want to do a presentation first before we open up the public hearing for public comment, and then we'll close it. As mentioned, the existing designation of the subject is low and medium density residential and mixed use, which is sited at the specific locations shown on the general plan map, which is the image on the left. And the image on the right shows the proposed land use. The proposal is to amend the land use plan to a consolidated land use designation of master plan community, which gives more flexibility in citing locations of the various land uses versus the current land use map, which isolates or cites the location of the medium density, mixed use, and low density into specific locations. The right is a consolidated master plan community type of designation that does consolidate it, but also gives flexibility to the developer as well.
Rudy, I should have said this earlier. Can you pull that microphone closer to you? We're
Oh, sorry.
having
I
problems
apologize.
on the dais with the speakers, and we can't hear up here.
Aye.
The only speaker we're hearing is those speakers, and that it's hard for us. So I can't hear you very well.
I apologize. As part of the process, applicants provide a conceptual development plan to illustrate the type of development that could occur under the new proposed designation of master plan community. The rezoning of the land and infrastructure planning are shown in a conceptual fashion, which will be later ironed out during the platting and the rezoning process, which is stipulated as a condition in this report. Again, this request tonight for approval of amendment of the city's general plan and land use map and not the design stage at this time. As required by the city's zoning code and state requirements, all required advertisement notices that included public notices, newspaper notices, agency notices, sign postings on the property, and holding a neighborhood meeting were all completed, along with the holding of 2 separate P&Z Commission public hearings at different locations within the city limits, along with the required public hearing for tonight. Further information can be found within Exhibit E of your report. And at the time of writing this report, staff has not received any type of formal comment other than general clarification about the project itself. Scale of this request was considered as a major amendment based on the acreage of size in accordance to the general plan. The intent of the plan remains consistent with a market that has become somewhat fluid in nature. The plan will continue to provide a variety of housing and economic opportunities with this amendment. And the proposal will continue to meet several general plan goals shown in this slide as well. On September 28, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission found that the amendment is consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan. It increases the land use and balances inventory of land uses within the city. An amendment will promote growth in an orderly manner that will protect health, safety, and general welfare for the city. With that being said, at this time, like for the mayor and council member to open up the public hearing for comment, close it, and we do have the applicant here to answer any questions if there is any.
Great,
Mayor.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to open the public hearing at this time. Again, if anyone in the audience would like to come forward and speak to this item and this item only, you may do so. Okay, seeing no one in the public hearing, wishing to speak at the public hearing, we'll go ahead and close that and move on to item 9.5. This is a resolution 20-45. It's the exact same thing, but we're going to move forward. Rudy, anything else you'd like to tell us on this as we get to discussion and action?
Nope, that's the same thing. This is only for general plan amendment. There is no rezoning tied at this time. We will see that future development application hopefully fairly soon.
Perfect. So again, for the major general plan amendment. Council, any questions at this time for the applicant or for Rudy? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion, please? I have a motion from Vice Mayor and a second from Councilmember Manfredi. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
And that concludes our agenda for this evening. Thank you to the applicant for being here. We appreciate all that you're trying to accomplish there, and for everybody else in the audience, we appreciate you letting us move the meeting 1 week due to the state of the city last week. And with that, our next meeting will be on November 17th, as we don't have a meeting on Election Day. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. See you in a few weeks.
Please take the cookies on the way out.